Everybody, welcome back to another Adobe Live. I am Jesús Ramirez, and with me today is Lisa Carney. Today we're going to teach Firefly Boards in Photoshop in Pro Creative Workflows. Hey Lisa, how's it going?
Hey, darling, really good. How are you holding up?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited for today's stream. There's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of, oops, I have the audio here on this side. I just took it off, but no worries. I was going to say, I'm super excited for today's stream because you and I work together, and
Yeah.
I know that you know a lot of professional tips, techniques, workflows, pipelines, all that good stuff. And I'm sure people are going to love it. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today?
Yeah. Well, and thanks for having me. So this is awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about utilizing Firefly workboards in a professional workflow. And that means having to pay attention to certain criteria, like no type maybe, because you're going to add type later, or when should you use
Hmm.
Firefly boards or Photoshop to generate because they're completely different.
Hmm.
And how do you utilize them? Do you understand
Absolutely.
what I mean? So it's really been, let's just call it challenging to sort this out with all the emerging technology.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Everything is changing. Everything is, I feel like there's a new feature in Photoshop or Firefly just about every week, which is,
Yeah.
I guess, one of the advantages of having
Yeah.
the Creative Cloud that you're always getting new updates, new features. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you show us today. By the way, I want to ask everybody in the chat to just drop us a comment, letting us know where you're watching from. I'm streaming from Kansas City, Missouri. Lisa, where are you at?
I'm up in Truckee, California, near Lake
Rocky
Tahoe.
Rocky,
Yeah.
California. Awesome. Yeah, I would love to see where everybody is tuning in from. If you have any questions, let us know in the chat. I will answer it, or I can ask Lisa. But yeah, we want to hear your questions, hear your comments, and super excited to get started, Lisa. So I'll throw it over to you.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my keynote for some conversation here, first of all. And I think it's really important we talk about the why, because I think the why dictates the how. So Jesus was mentioning how fast things are changing. And honestly, I feel like it's almost daily. I open up Photoshop or Firefly and I see new buttons and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And in the midst of all that, I think it's so important to remember the why. Why are we doing this? What do we have to do? So Jesus and I do entertainment art. Maybe you've seen some of our work out there. We've been doing it for a really long time. And I'm so appreciative to have partnered up with Jesus so that I'm not the only one and not the only set of eyes. And one of the things, Jesus, I really want to talk about in this session is collaboration. So, oh gosh, do you remember this NCIS? Oh,
Yes, I
it was
do.
this one first, then it was the other one. So there's a lot of back and forth, right? In entertainment work. Oh, Jesus, I have to apologize for this job, even though it wasn't my fault. So gang, Jesus had to build this incredible background, and then the client came back and said, "Oh no, we need something totally different." And I want to talk about that, like the flexibility and
Hmm.
why these Firefly boards might be really awesome for that kind of issue. So yeah, we're going to work on some U.S. Marshal stuff today. Um, Oh, do you remember that room? Oh my goodness. This room on this
Yes.
build, oh my gosh. This was
So
one of the, yeah, go ahead,
actually, can I say something about that room? So we're talking
please.
about the room on the far right. That was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first time I used generative fill in a commercial project.
Yes. Yeah. So what was awesome about that particular piece on the right is I gave Jesus, I think, three photos, nothing of a complete room. I mean, nothing. And I was like, hey, can you build out a room? And wait till you see the sizes we have to build to, because it's crazy.
Right. So the poster that you're seeing now is not the final product. Is That's probably maybe what, a fourth of what we put in?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to show you something in just a second with one of the workflows we have to deal with, which is so important. And as I'm looking at these pieces here, Jesus, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I only had Gen Fill, how much time would have been saved now? I mean, it's a whole new world. This fool, Jesus did all the background work on this and the build outs for this. So if you guys look at Beyond the Gates, that's what you might see on a streaming channel.
Hmm.
But what we have to produce is this.
Yeah.
Much bigger, much wider. Do you remember this one?
Well, now that I'm looking at it, I see all the mistakes and I'm like, ugh, I do remember it. And something very important to keep in mind is a lot of these projects we don't can't work on them forever. We essentially have a
Yeah.
timeline and we got to do it. And if it looks good enough, it looks good enough. And if they're happy, they're happy. But you as the artist, you see like 40 different things that could be better.
Yeah, 100%. We're never done, are we, in our mind?
No.
Yeah. And good enough has to be sometimes good enough, especially for the budgets and the time
Hmm.
frame. This CSI on the right, that ice cube, that was one of my favorite projects we worked
Hmm.
on. Jesus figured out the whole Adobe Stager
Yeah.
dimension, not did you do it in dimensions? I can't remember, or
No,
stager.
so well, I mean, to give people context, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason we worked on this specific piece and not use any actors, it was during the writer's strike, I believe, and we didn't have any photograph of actors. I don't know the specifics as to what the strike indicated. The point is that we needed to come up with the poster for the TV show. Was it CSI Las Vegas? I think it was.
Yes, yes, it
Um,
was. Yeah.
and we needed to composite this scene together, but it was not only challenging in Photoshop, we couldn't get a lot of the lighting right, the textures right. I mean, it was just really difficult. So then I remember thinking, wait a minute, all these are simple shapes. There's like a cup, a die,
Mhm.
and a couple chips in a table. Like that's so actually everything in there except the skull is an Adobe stock asset. The table's an Adobe stock asset. And what I mean by asset is I'm not talking about an image, it's an actual 3D Adobe stock asset that I
Yeah.
then took into Stager, um, Substance Stager, and I just composited it all together. And then we brought it into Photoshop and we, um, finished it up. I think you did the ice cube
Yeah.
after that. And one
Yeah.
thing that I should tell people is one of the funny things about doing this type of work is that in my opinion, sometimes you know better than the person in charge and they tell you to do something that's bad. And this one upsets me so bad because I worked so hard on getting that reflection on the table right in 3D. And that reflection is horrible. That's not a realistic reflection. Whoever was in charge said, "Hey, I want the reflection to flare out." And my argument was that's not what happens in real life. It's straight down, just like the 3D rendered. But the person was like, "Nope, we need it to flare out." And I said, "All
Well,
right,
all right. Here's some pushback now. This is,
yeah."
and sometimes we don't know why. So what
Mhm.
happens when you guys see the work, the art is cropped very differently, and
Right.
that flare had to be changed because of the type that had to show. So while
Sure.
it was not perspectively correct for a photograph or a real life situation, it had to
Sure.
read for the type.
Sure.
So, oftentimes there's many, many, many different
And
reasons.
there it is on the type what you were talking about.
Yeah. So there again, we have our thoughts as artists and we think, oh, it should be this, it's not correct. And in fact, many people will comment when they see an extended piece of art, they'll go, oh, the legs are in the wrong spot or it's not right. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, but there was actually a banner of type that had to read there. So that's why we had to make
Sure.
this decision we did. So yeah, so let's talk about this. Oh, I want to talk about Kansas City real quick. I get very excited. Jesus and I are going to be in Kansas City April 21st for Design Week and Kansas City Now Design Week. So if you are a local there, I'm going to put a URL up here. You might want to take a picture of it real quick. But if you're in the area, please sign up and come join us. It'll be a hoot. We're going to talk about AI workflow in person and
Yeah, and
yada yada.
it's just an Adobe event and it will be free. Just click on that RSVP button and yeah, you can be there. We're gonna have two events actually. I don't know why
Yeah,
there's only one in there, but we're also
it's a
doing
teaser.
we're doing two in there. So yeah, just check out the link and you'll
Yeah.
learn
So
all
please
about it.
come and join us. And if you're ever in a city where there's a Create Now or Design Week from Adobe, get there because they're so much fun.
Yeah, and they're always
You can
they're free and a lot of great speakers.
Yeah, you get to make, and in fact, let's talk about that for 2 seconds here. One of the best things that CSI job when Jesus and I worked on that, and he got outside of Photoshop and wasn't stuck in the idea that, oh, we can only work in Photoshop. It changed everything for me and our company and the workflow. So, you want to collaborate. I think finding someone you can collaborate with is amazing. A place you may find that is in Behance. Like join the community, put your work up there and try to find someone you can collaborate with because especially if you find someone like for me Jesus's brain works totally different than mine and that is such an asset when we're collaborating because we see different things so anyway to join Behance it's free what the heck we're both on Instagram. I'm sorry Jesus, I don't have your board up here but
No worries.
Jesus.
Today is all about you.
Oh, I'm the shining star. All right, anyway, so join me on Instagram anyway. Been doing this for 110 years, it seems like, all different kinds of styles of looks, of work. Um, yeah, a really long time if you can see how different these pieces are. And this is why you have to be flexible in entertainment. So I've got to show you this. My very first piece I did in entertainment is that god awful natural causes
Mhm.
video box on the left-hand side. That's how old I am. And in fact, the dude holding the gun is my brother-in-law. I had no assets. Adobe stock didn't even exist back then. And Heckfire, Photoshop just had layers, I think just started. So the first movie poster I got to do all by myself was The Secret Agent, and I was so proud of that. It was the first time I was ever like, oh, this one's mine. And I think what's important is to talk about longevity. and how to stay relevant and still be in the workforce when things are changing so fast. And it's this kind of thing. Like you guys are here on Adobe Live watching and learning, and this is how you stay relevant. You don't fall behind. You pay attention to what's coming. So hang in there. And it's changing fast. So I get overwhelmed. I really value that I have a collaboration with Jesus because when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, oh my God, these partner models, I don't understand them. I have someone I can talk to. So there's my plug for you, Jesus. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to talk real quickly about workflow and why he and I have to stay so flexible. And I'm pretty sure for you guys and your clients anymore, you have to. There's so many different platforms now you have to export your art to. There's vertical, there's horizontal, there's square, there's bust kings, there's king bust size, there's every kind of size and dimension you can possibly imagine. Anymore, you need to have your artwork fit for. So when you're building an entertainment, we have to build for a 1 sheet, a 2 sheet, billboards, and character cells.
Hmm.
Okay, so this should help frame what we're going to do in Firefly boards because this is what we have to think of, these kind of things. So a teaser often doesn't have the same logo as the 1 sheet or the payoff key art. There's less type in a teaser piece of art. So when we're doing work, we have to pay attention to type has to go a lot of type or a little type or hardly any type. So these are areas we have to watch out for. There's character cells, and character cells are individual people that have their own poster or billboard. And it can be animation. So here's the Addams family. You've got a teaser of the whole group, and then you have character cells. And these are called character cell teasers because they don't have a lot of type. Do you guys see that? There's not a billing block on there. So I think sometimes it helps to look at the artwork to understand why you make it the way you do. And if you all have any questions about this as we're talking, please let me know. All right. Jesus and I are known as finishers more than designers. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, so when we do finishing, what happens often is we're given a comp and then we have to do extension or rebuild it, uh, ideally as perfect as humanly possible. And what happens is we have to come up with these huge extensions that people haven't thought about yet. So this one, good Lord, had generative fill had just started and I used it to fill in some bits and seaming on the grass here. Otherwise, it was a lot of hand painting in Photoshop. But we have to do all these different kinds of boards. And this finish here, I want to call attention to a few things. There's a comp. So we're given that little comp, but we have to build a wider board because of all those deliverables, right? And sometimes the assets are incomplete. So extending this skin on this rhino
Mhm.
was crazy. And it actually is supposed to be an elephant, not a rhino. Isn't that interesting too? And the hand. And then if you look at the final, there's some coloration differences. So what happens when Jesus and I give a file to clients, there'll be additional changes on top of it after the fact.
Right. And that's because
Yeah.
they have to make it look good for whatever the final
Whatever
output
device,
is.
whatever
Yeah.
medium.
Hmm.
And look at, so this is a really good example of why generative fill and the Firefly boards would be so much more helpful now, because look how much bleed has to be created from very
Hmm.
little. Hopefully this is instructive to see this kind of stuff. All right, let's talk about the job and how it works. So you've got concept and iteration. So coming up with ideas. That would probably be Firefly and Photoshop. For many studios, you have sketch artists who sketch these ideas, but anymore with AI, I think it's going to be actually derivative of four color artwork, less sketches. Then you have maybe a photo shoot based on your iterations and your ideas. You actually shoot the talent. Boy, if you're lucky, you get to do this. And or you're generating assets in Photoshop and or Firefly. And I'm going to say Firefly a lot. And when I say Firefly, I mean Firefly inside Photoshop and Firefly inside firefly.com and then Firefly boards. So I know it can be a little confusing. Then, of course, once you've got the concept and iteration, then you start working on the design. And I'll show you a board to illustrate that. Again, Photoshop and Firefly. And then hopefully the client signs off on something and you rebuild it from scratch, high res, start over or clean up. And then, of course, you deliver your file. Okay. So here's a sample of a job. Jesus, I hope this doesn't cause you twitching. Some of our jobs have been a little painful. So we have to come up with all these different looks for these jobs. So this one, for example, the Diana Salazar, all these different looks for a variety of reasons, clients asking, we have ideas, whatever. And then the final gets built, and this is where they net it out on this particular job. Again, verticals and horizontals, and then all sorts of different sizes.
So one thing
So what,
I wanted to mention about that, just because earlier we said we primarily do finishing, this was a design job. So there's
yes,
a difference.
yes, there is a difference. And this is why these Firefly boards, look at this for a minute. I mean, look, good Lord, I'm trying to think, did we have a week for this round? I feel like it was just a week.
I don't know, but we did a whole. I mean, yeah. I don't know how
I
many
want
are
to say
there.
we
Like,
probably turned in more than this. I'm not even showing all of them.
yeah.
I would say on average per job, we come up with about 100 comps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah,
basically
on average.
100 posters, but they're not fully finished. Like I guess in the small thumbnails they look good, but if you were to zoom in, you will see a lot of imperfections, and that's because
Yes,
we don't want to spend time fine-tuning those small details for something that will never get used.
exactly right. Exactly right. Cool. Again, I hope people are finding this informative a little bit. So, for example, on these NCIS and FBI job, this is what you guys will roughly see with type, of course. I don't do type, so you often not see type.
Well,
But
yeah. And I'm so sorry for interrupting, but those are the what do you call them? The platform images? Like
these, well, I call these a letterbox. So when you're streaming, it's what shows up in the. It's a generic
right.
letterbox.
It's like in the giant box though, right?
Exactly
Yeah.
right. But then, of course, if you're looking at your phone, you see a different one. If you actually
Hmm.
click the button, you see another
Hmm.
size. If you're on the airplane, you see a whole nother size, right?
Yeah. And by the
Okay.
way, if the sidewalk there looks a little weird on the bottom left, that's because that was Firefly.
Well, and also the crop. We talked about that crop
Yeah,
thing. It's like the
yeah.
same thing with the glass. You know, when you crop your images, you need different things. So this is what we have to deliver.
Mhm.
Very, very, very different to what you see. So if you look at this workflow, you've got the concept of iteration. Now, for this job, there was a sketch, and then there's a photo shoot, then
Mhm.
there's the design, then there's the finish. And this might be a little small on the screen, but if you look at those assets, there is no asset in there that it looks anywhere near like this corner. That was
Mhm.
completely built by Jesus.
Mhm.
You had a little bit of a building, and then you had to extend all this. So I
It
think
did,
you'll understand why we love Firefly so much after
Firefly
this.
did a really good job in those cars on the left. That they look
Yeah,
very real.
yeah, cool. All
And
right.
things are a little bit easier now because that was what, a year ago now?
Yeah, things are way easier
Yeah,
now.
things are better. Yeah, things are like so. This particular job that you're going to talk about now, that one, Firefly struggled a lot, and I generated some things like 10 times until it finally got
Yes.
something decent. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's very different. So again, this was not designed by Jesus and I, someone else designed it, and you could see the room that we have to create, the characters, and if you notice these characters don't even have legs. Like when they designed it, there were no legs. I'm going to talk about that in just a second in Firefly. And then again, this was the final delivery for the project, but the room Jesus had to build was this,
yeah.
which you hardly see it. All that work and you can hardly see it.
No,
But
and something I want to mention. So at the time, maybe even today, this is probably still true today. The floor, for example, I could have not generated that in Firefly. It just wouldn't do the right perspective, the right detail, the right depth of field. So something I tell people is that I have to use my traditional Photoshop skills. So what I did for the floor and then also the panels on the left hand side is I use Firefly to generate like just a small piece. Then I converted that small piece into a Photoshop pattern that is just endless, and that's how I generated or not generated, but tiled the floor using a Photoshop pattern, and then using the
yeah.
converting it into a smart object transformation tools to match the perspective. And I did the same thing for the wall, the
Yeah.
panels on the wall.
Yeah. I think you have a demo on generating a pattern. You did it on a fence on your training channel, and it's really good. I will tell you on the floor, the other thing you did on this, which was amazing, I was struggling completely. I was trying to make the wood come out towards the viewer, which was
Mhm.
a total mistake because it kept interfering with the people. Like the floor was really distracting. And then you just laid the floor horizontal instead of coming at the viewer. And I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God, you're genius. I
yeah.
felt, yeah, that was a great design change. All right, so let's keep talking here. So we've got generative fill in Photoshop. We have Firefly, then we have Firefly boards, and then we have AI assist in Photoshop on the web that I pray to Buddha I can show you today too. So they're all different, but they're all the same. How's that for confusing? Because it's all Firefly and whatnot and partner models. All right.
Absolutely.
So Julianne Cost, who's one of our dear, dear friends and favorites, came up with this really great board about differences between Photoshop generative fill versus Firefly prompt. And if you're watching this, you can take a screen capture of it so you can read it later if you'd like. But I thought this was really helpful to think about like Photoshop, you want to do localized resolution advantages, smaller selections, more precise control. And then in Firefly, you've got global context awareness, right? Faster ideation. So sometimes I like to think, wait, why am I doing this in Photoshop or am I doing it in Firefly? And this might help you figure out what works for you. Okay. In addition to that, this was so helpful. Oh my goodness. Model strengths. Jesus, this has to happen to you where you're like, wait, am I using Flux or am I going to use Gemini 3 Nano Banana? What why? Why would I use one or the other? And they're different. They're so different. So take a picture of the screen. Jesus, do you find these model strengths are pretty accurate to you for now? Because I do know these change.
Yeah, they change often. So I personally, I primarily stick with Nano Banana, whatever the latest version is. It just gives me pretty much everything I
Yeah.
need. And then for a generator fill workflow in Photoshop, Firefly models, the newest ones. Well, actually, and I shouldn't say that. Okay, this is what I say. Firefly models, the newest, whatever one it is, in this case, 5, or the new extend and expand model. Those are the ones I switch back and forth from
Yes.
because they give you different results depending on what you're doing. But something that people need to understand with Photoshop specifically, this is not necessarily true in Firefly because it works differently. But in Photoshop, where you have the generator fill workflow, if you make a selection around something, let's say you make a selection around my head and tell Firefly to do something, Firefly, like give me a hat, for example. Firefly has context of the entire image, not necessarily the selection
Yes.
that you created. So then that allows for more realistic results. Maybe not in a hat, but like if you want to create a reflection of something, it's much better in Firefly. If you make a selection around and then select the partner model only has context of the selection.
The
It doesn't
actual
have
selection.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have context outside of it. So you may not get as realistic results. But if you select the entire image and then use a partner model, then it's basically the same thing. But then you run
Excellent.
into the resolution issues.
Yes. And then the other tip that Jesus gave me that I absolutely love when using Gemini is I always do a square selection now.
Mhm.
It jumps less.
Like a one to
Square.
like a 1-to-1 square, like perfect
Yeah,
square
a
jumps
one-to-one
less. Yeah.
square. Yeah,
Mhm.
jumps less.
Yeah.
So hopefully you find that helpful. And then this is the other thing now. Again, strengths and weaknesses. I will tell you, Jesus is a way better prompter than me. He's got it down. But these are things to think about. And in fact, Jesus, I think it's in the chat for everyone, your prompt selection suggestions.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if we can give that your text that you had. I don't know if we could put that in
I can put it in.
the
Yeah.
YouTube. Cool. Jesus has a nice little shortcut about what to look for. Set the direction, be specific about details, describe what you want to change, that kind of thing. Um, and also for those of us who are sucky prompt writers, don't give up. You'll get there. I promise. I promise. I promise. Because it's time in. All right. I would like to take 2 seconds before we jump into the Firefly boards to talk about the board. Because again, this is like how I learn versus.
Before we start, there's a question in the chat by Nicholas. Sorry if I mispronounced it, Nicholas. Do you also deliver for print? If so, what color profile do you use? Adobe RGB, CMYK, or what?
Fantastic question about color settings and profiles inside Photoshop. I have different clients, so they have very different needs. Apple, if you deliver for Apple jobs for their network, it has to be the display 3. Paramount, I believe, is still sRGB. I think that's accurate. Other clients are Adobe RGB. I never do the CMYK conversions anymore. I used to have to do those. Now the print provider, the people actually doing the printing, they more often will do
Mhm.
the conversion, the CMYK conversion. Hopefully that helps. Great question. And yes, now the other thing that's interesting about our deliverables is it used to be probably 20% digital and 80% print. Now it's flipped. In fact, I would even say it's probably 15% print now. What a crazy change that is.
Yeah.
Huge, huge change.
I can't
All
remember the
right.
last time we worked on a print one. A print
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the Firefly boards, this is a Firefly board window, and I just want to let's talk about the UI or the interface here. So if you look at the upper left-hand corner here, you'll see that those icons mean select, the artboard, add text, shapes. You can add shapes. You can add content from your device. And I actually use Firefly boards, I'm going to show you in just a minute, to actually organize our job, almost like a mood board, if you would. And
Mhm.
that's a really helpful thing for me. Now, here on the right-hand side, you have search. So you have properties on the top, you have generation history. That ST means Adobe Stock search. So you can search for Adobe Stock straight in the Firefly boards, which is pretty amazing. You have comments. So do you see on the top of the board on the right-hand side? I don't think I can point with my cursor. I don't know if you could see this. It says share at the top. And I'm not sure if you guys can see this on your window, but I share boards with Jesus. So we work on Firefly board jobs together, and he'll ideate, he'll do some versions, I'll do my versions, and we keep them all together, which is absolutely hugely, hugely helpful, is sharing your boards with other people. On the bottom, on the generate image box, as I like to call it, of course, you have your image models that show up down here. And holy heckfire, look at this, you guys. Oh my Lord, look how many image models there are now. So I did another, there's the middle one is for generating an image. The one on the right is for video, if you're generating video. So I did another one of these prompts. And if you want to email me at lisacarney.com, I'm happy to send you this deck so you can see. So currently, this is what AI thinks these prompts are best for. Because I got to tell you, Ideogram 3.0, you've got Runway Gen 4 image. I haven't used Runway yet. So I don't know what Runway is good for yet, and I want to see. So this is just kind of a tip sheet to get you started. And we have the same thing here for the video. So Jesus has been working with video more and more. I am just getting my toes wet creating video images in the Firefly boards, but it's pretty amazing. Coolio. So we're going to work on this little bit here, and I want to talk a little bit about workflow for character cells and character sheets. So where I normally would have done this in the past is I would have extend these characters. So the cut off versions that you see is what were provided to us by the client, and I needed their whole legs. So I generated this in Photoshop. But anymore now, I'm doing this in Firefly on the boards. Hey Zeus, do you find it's the same for you? That you're switching more to Firefly for this kind of thing?
Absolutely. I do like Firefly boards for a lot. I probably use it more than even the text to image module and the um, video or image to video modules. I pretty much do everything through Firefly boards. And also,
Yeah.
something cool that a lot of people may not know yet is that when you generate something in board anywhere in Fire, anywhere, it doesn't matter, boards, Firefly, whatever, you have access to it in Photoshop immediately, not through the libraries panel, but Photoshop since a version ago has on the home screen a tab that reads generation history. So I'll generate something in boards. Go in so yeah, click on the home button.
Yeah, give me a second here, Eddie. Come on, my friend. The demo gods.
I don't
Let
know
me
what.
just.
Did you you might do you have it enabled the home screen because you can disable it.
No, I have it enabled. It's just
Okay.
being difficult.
All right. Well, if you close this document, there you
Here you
go.
go.
There you go. You see on the it says generation history on the left.
Right here, down
Yeah.
here in the bottom.
Yep.
If you,
Yep.
this
Did
is
you
great.
So when you click on that, you have access to your generations immediately. So
Yes.
yes, you do have to go to the Firefly web browser and do whatever, but you don't even have to download it or send it to a library. It's just there, and then when you click on it, it opens up in Photoshop, and you can use it, use the asset any way you want.
Yeah. The other thing you can do if you choose to, if you've generated an asset, like let's say I tap here, is the download button here. You can download it or export as, and you can also send that to your job folder as well. Your choice. So I don't share boards with everybody. I don't share boards with clients. I share boards with collaborators, meaning like Jesus. But I don't share it with my clients. So if I want to share a single file, I would export it or do whatever in Photoshop. So another thing, so here, let's talk about this. Here, we're on a Firefly board here. And what you'll see is I have, in fact, let me go ahead and zoom up. I think we're doing okay on time here. So there's my character sheet that I did. I'm going to do one with you guys right now. So I did it a couple different ways. First of all, this image here, I extended that in Photoshop doing generative fill. And then I said, hey, can you create a character sheet? See, here's the prompt. Hopefully y'all can see that well. Create a character sheet, make a right, left profile, 3/4 turn, both left and right, arms down, place on gray background. Not the most elegant of prompts. I'm sure Jesus would write a much more beautiful prompt than I did, but look, it worked. So look how amazing it is. I only have one shot and it gave me all of these. Now, because I like to experiment, I did the same thing where I took the original that I did not extend in Photoshop. I wrote a prompt and notice I'm tapping on the image and I can tap load and it'll show me. I put the exact same prompt, but look what happened. I got this weird, it cut off its legs. It didn't extend the legs. So then I went to this one and I just added make character full length. That's all I had to add. So this is that learning curve I'm talking about. Like, okay, I made my first iteration. It didn't look right, but there's a second one. And I have to tell you guys, this is a miracle. To be able to get someone's legs in different body positions and then do a piece is amazing. So let me show you. Let me just move this. I'm going to add another character. So forgive my screen movement here. I just need to move everything out of the way. Hopefully no one's got any questions just yet. Okay, so I'm going to, so this is an interesting thing that happens to me on occasion. Do you see how this is distorted? Jesus, does this ever happen to you?
The distortion with the
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
yeah.
Yeah. So it happened to me the other day, and then I imported a separate file and it was fine. I'm going to just see if it'll work fine. And I am a lazy, lazy girl. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the prompt that I already wrote because who wants to rewrite anything, especially me? So again, I'm just going to copy this, create character sheet, make character full length. I am on this now. Let me do this. I am on my image, generate image, and I'm going to get rid of the image that it's sourcing, use the eyedropper. Hopefully everyone can see this on the screen and say, hey, this image here, use this as my image, create a character sheet, blah, blah, blah. And oh my gosh, which one do we use? Now, I prefer Nano Banana 3.1. If you have time and credits, I would suggest you try each one of these and see what you get so you start learning it. And then I'm going to tap generate. Now, I will tell you for full transparency, this has been taking a little while on my system. And if it takes too long, we're just going to move on and I'll show you the other stuff we did. But I have to tell you, game changer for people in my industry. Now, can we talk about legalese here? Generally, this kind of process for me would be for iteration. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, we'd be able to have a photo shoot with our actors and get this done. Okay. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. With your clients, you have to find out if it's okay to use AI. I don't know how often, Jesus, you're running into this problem, but with our clients, there's some clients that are like, A-okay, you use this as much as you want. Other clients are like, no, you can't use it at all. I'm doing iteration. This is not final production right now. Okay. So you have time to find out about what to do. Do you need to shoot a body double? But if you have to shoot a body double, at least you know what to do with them and how to shoot them, what angle, what camera angle, what lighting, etc.
Yeah, and also like that's a really interesting topic because a lot of people just have this blanket statement like no AI, right?
Yeah.
And like what does that really mean? Are we talking about generative AI? Are we talking about generating the character? Like what about using the remove tool that uses generative AI? You know, so like
Exactly right. Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
you know it can get really complicated and some people just have these blanket statements and like I don't know. I think using the remove tool is fine, but you know, if
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff gets you know what? I was gonna say something that I don't know if it's no longer true. I don't
Here
know
we
if
go.
using the remove tool adds metadata saying that you use generative AI. I need to figure that out. But
Yes, I believe it does.
mhm.
So look at this, you guys. Look at it gave, I mean, that's amazing. That is
Mhm.
absolutely amazing what it created in relatively short period of time. And
Mhm.
then watch what we can do. And Jesus, hats off to you because you totally are the guy who figured this out for me. And I thought this was just amazing, like how you could use these Firefly boards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new image. I'm going to generate a scene. And the scene I want to generate is this one here. So I'm going to, again, copy my prompt. Make a 2 by 3 ratio canvas, create cinematic romantic close-up of a man and woman facing each other in profile, foreheads and noses almost touching, eyes closed. The man from image 1 is on the left. The woman from image 2 is going to be on the right. Both characters are wearing the exact clothes seen in their provided reference image. Really important here. The background is out of focus, golden architectural field at sunset. Use image 3 as reference. Warm golden light, soft glow, bokeh, and gentle lens flare. Photorealistic, movie poster aesthetic. So let's load this up. So image number 1 is going to be the guy. And instead of it being the original guy, I'm going to pick my new guy. So he's going to be image 1. Image 2 is going to be the woman. Let me go get her. She is under here. She's right there. One thing with Firefly boards, I often have to move my stuff and then go back to my generate. I don't know if you find that same. There we go. So there's my image 2. And then image 3 is going to be the background scene. So I have a few different background scenes here. I have this new one. I have these. The background options you see on this board, you guys, I used Adobe Stock and just loaded it. I do not generate everything.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's if I'm breaking some kind of cardinal rule now by not using AI for everything, but sometimes I still like to go to stock and bring images in. And notice all the stock pieces are large horizontal because we remember those builds we have to do. Jesus and I know we need 5,000 yards of bleed.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit generate and let's see if there's anything I'm missing. Oh, let's look at the bottom. You can do landscape, widescreen, square, portrait, or vertical. In fact, what the hell? I'm going to do widescreen for this, which should give us more of a billboard size. And the other thing it's on here, but I'm not going to use it right now, but Jesus just taught me this, is use Google search. So if you're referencing something like an automobile type or something very specific and the AI needs to know what that is, Google can help with that, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Also,
Now,
another use case for that, if it's something so new that the model wasn't trained with, because the models, I don't know exactly when the latest Google Nano Banana was trained, but if you wanted to reference something that it may not know because it's so new and so relevant, like topical, then use that checkbox and it might be able to figure it out.
100%. And I need to call your attention to please look at this board and look at the bottom. Do you see this Nano Banana 3.1 will use 40 credits to make this one render. If I change this to Flux Pro, that's going to use 20 credits.
Lisa, let me stop you for a second. Can you please do a full screen on your Firefly um browser? Just so
Yes.
it's full screen. Yep.
Is that better?
Yep, better.
Awesome. Thank you. That's why Jesus is here. So if I go to Ideogram, which I've never used, I've used Ideogram in its own software. I've never used it inside Firefly. That takes 20 credits. So I'm just calling attention to the fact that all credits are not equal. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and tap generate and Lord willing and the creek don't rise. It will not take too long. While it's doing that, I have a rule, and this may be different from Jesus, so I'd like to talk about this. I do not put type in Firefly ever. I like to have it separate because
Hmm.
logos change, size change, and I don't want to have to take it off. So you'll see I have type on here. That is a separate image that I have dragged into Firefly and I put on top just so I can see it.
Hmm.
This image here is the crop for a one sheet. And this is how I ideate. I just want to see it. It's separate, but it's my way of seeing what's happening at the same time. Any questions out there in TV land,
I've
Jesus?
been I've been answering some questions, more specific, not so specific to what you're doing. So if
Okay,
you have any
great.
questions specifically to what Lisa is doing, let us know in the chat.
Okay, and I really want this. This will be the only render I think I'll do live with you guys because it takes so much time, but I think it's worth seeing how slow it is. I will tell you exponentially in the last 3 days, my machine has slowed down a bit. So I don't know if that's me. Um, and then other times it's rocket fast. So these are other things to get used to. While we're waiting for the render, I'm going to go ahead and move this down. I want to show you what I use this for. So this initial render with this couple, I then said, hey, can you make it a horizontal busking layout?
Mhm.
And then this render here, again, hopefully you can see that on your screen. I said, change it to a nighttime scene. So our clients like these. They like, hey, we want a daytime, we want a nighttime, we want to show a different series, we want to show a different love interest. Or heckfire, someone got fired and that actor has to be switched out with another actor at the last minute. It has happened. Just going to tell you that. We
Mhm.
sometimes create artwork before the shows are actually made.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, so look at this one. So I'm just grabbing it from the icon and dragging it onto the board. Now, I do not worry about size and scale and like that their bodies are smaller. So what I mean is this horizontal version, do you see how their bodies are cropped? And on this original version and this version here, it's larger. I don't care because I can regenerate that. Do you have the same feeling, Jesus?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So hopefully you can see how fast that is. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Can you imagine what we used to have to do? It's like, first of all, I didn't even have that shot of the guy. You got to remember, I didn't have a profile of this dude. I only
Mhm.
had him straight on. Now I've got a profile of him and her for that matter. And I don't have pictures of them with eyes closed or
Mhm.
touching. And look at this. I mean, it's amazing what you can create. And then I also wanted to explore some other ideas because, again, this is all about ideation. So I changed the background out on these other screens here, these smaller screens, and one of them, all of a sudden, type popped in. So same prompt, but why did Google Gemini 3.1 all of a sudden put type in there?
Mhm.
I can't tell you. It's magic, right? So what I ended up doing on later versions is I just started writing no type. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, on this image here, sometimes that ubiquitous double exposure look people like. They want to see a version of it. I think it's a little tired, but people like it. So I wrote cinematic double exposure movie poster, a close-up side profile portrait, and no type at the end. You'll notice this. Now, Jesus, I don't know if you do this, but I actually loaded a double exposure movie poster of a different movie into AI and I said, could you write a prompt that describes this?
Mhm. Mhm.
And why I do that is I'm not a wordsmith. I am a visual person. I'm not good with words. So using AI to write the prompt can
Mhm.
be very helpful. On a side note about that, again, I hope this is helpful. These boards are going to change your life. Because look, there's your whole mood board for the whole job right there.
Mhm.
This, I wanted to create this background scene. I'm going to hit load so you can see a scene filled with a serene field of tall, lush grass in foreground. Use sky from image one. Add winding river. Use image three for the overall tone and color warmth. And what it's referring to, you can see the boxes, are those stock shots. So I actually made a brand new scene using the stock shots.
Mhm.
That's kind of fun. But I am a nervous Nelly about my prompts. So that prompt is very basic, right? I'm I'm not a prompt writer yet. I'm working on it.
Mhm.
So because there is a prompt assist, do you see this button on the very bottom, you guys? It says enhance prompt. So I thought AI would do it better than me. Hey, AI, write it better. Thank you very much. But look, it doesn't look as good. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't fit at all what I'm going for.
Mhm.
So I that made me feel better. That made me think, okay, so I'm not the best prompt writer in the world, but boy, that worked out okay. And on a side note, the video generation, and I think there's still a special going on with the video prompting in Firefly. I think they have a special going on right now where they're not charging you credits or minimal credits. So I wanted to try my hand at generating a video. And there's my prompt. You can take a screen capture if you want it, but I want to show you what the video looks like. So just panning. Now it changed the girl and the guy a lot, a lot. But I bet with continual prompting, I can fix this. This is my first video try. Oops, I forgot to say to stay on the people. Isn't that interesting? Like it didn't occur to me I had to say the people have to be the focus, but you have to do that. So cool. So hopefully you guys will find this helpful. I was going to move on to some other stuff. I don't know if there's any questions, but again, this is all about generating character sheets, so full bodies, different positions, and you can get all kinds of different positions. You're not stuck with these. And then imagine what we did. I literally just said take character one and character two. Heckfire, I could probably put even three characters in there together in a love triangle. Yes.
There's a question in the chat that I answered, but I think it might be good to say it out loud so it gets recorded and people watching could also learn from it. The question was from Celeste asking, is it unusual to have to write a negative in the prompt, like don't use type or don't add type?
So I don't know, and I'm very interested on Jesus's take on this, but my take on it was back in the day, you did not do negative prompts. They didn't work. Now I find negative prompts help me. So I almost always include a negative prompt.
Well, a couple of things. It depends on the AI model, right? Some AI models don't like negative prompts, but
Yeah.
like for example, Gemini definitely allows for negative prompts.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think, and I don't remember, but Firefly used to not like them. I don't know about the newest version, Firefly 5 that just came out, and the fill and
Yeah.
expand models. Those two I'm not 100% sure on, but the older ones definitely do not like negative prompts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
like a negative prompt. So again,
yeah, but I definitely use them all the time, especially if you're avoiding problems with generations. Like in the example that you showed, no type. If you type, usually what I actually the one that I use most often, quite frankly, with Nano Banana is don't change scale, don't change
yes.
perspective, because sometimes when you are like adding a hat on somebody, it might change the perspective or the scale or the position. So I usually
Yeah.
include those, like don't change scale, position, or perspective or whatever it is that I want the generation to keep, because sometimes it does change it.
Absolutely. And I want to call attention to some problems. So this prompt here, which was cinematic double exposure, which I talked about. Well, I wanted to add the girl. So on this image here, I added the girl, same prompt, just added the girl, and it's terrible. Like that's a terrible comp. But again, this helps me because I look at it and go, yeah, I think I might want to add that gal. Not like that. What I would do at this point, rather than try to figure out the proper prompt, is I would take this image into Photoshop and just add her. So I want you to not think that if on Firefly your board is not absolutely perfect, great. Take those two images, add her in there, and bada bing, you're done. Right?
Mm-hmm. Here's a
Cool.
question, Lisa.
Yeah. Hey.
Ryan is asking, what happens if the studio loves the comp, the AI generated comp, but they don't do a photo shoot to match the generations?
Yeah, so okay, Ryan, excellent question. So this is where you get into a conversation with your client. Like if you're generating comps like this, you need to be sure is some word that's probably a bad word, I'm not going to say, that you can reproduce this look. So if I don't have a profile version of the actor and I render it, already a red flag is going to the client saying, "Hey, we're producing this. Are you comfortable with this? If you can't get a photo shoot with the actor, can we proceed?" So I talk through the process at all times. I don't wait to the end and go, "Oh, I generated that. We don't actually have that shot." Oh, no. You don't wait till the end to tell your client that. You talk about it throughout the process.
Right. And depending on, a lot of the times you and I get the photo shoot photos from the start, so we know exactly what poses of the actors we have and what could be created or not. But that's not
Yeah.
always the case.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to get out of this window and it's not letting me. There we go. So,
I'm gonna give you a 6-minute warning, Lisa.
oh my gosh. Okay. So I just want to remind you I was in Firefly Board. So I'm in the Firefly window here and I tapped on boards to get to the Firefly Boards and to start creating. So I just want to let you know that there's different, there's different windows in here. Real quickly, I'm going to quit out of this and I want to go to um, Photoshop for just a second because I want to show you some images about some stuff you can do. So Jesus had mentioned the Firefly model, a new model came out. So I can now, let's say I want to remove these guys' tattoo. And if you tap on your Firefly, Firefly Image 5 is new. It's supposed to be releasing today for public beta. And you just tap generate and it will remove the tattoos. It's a very intuitive type of model. You can just give a generic thing like just take out the tattoos, which is pretty basic. I think this model is for someone like me because of how basic the verbiage is on it. And I've been getting some pretty decent results. Not always. Just want to let you know, not always. But look, gone.
Mhm.
And the same guy, I did this other one where I said change the shirt to be a button-up dark blue denim. It changed the hat, look at the hat position and the arm positions, but I'm really happy with that. And I think it's a great result. So again, I want to be really clear which image model that is. That is the Firefly Image 5. So right now, as Jesus said, I use fill and expand and Firefly 5, pardon me. 3, I believe, is going away. I don't even touch 1 anymore. Okay, so that's just me. Also, I want to talk about different models. So I would like to recommend to you as much as possible to practice with different models. So this image is of my dog. And I said, basically make image appear if it's a winter scene. Same prompt for every single one. Depending on the model, look how different these are. Isn't that crazy? Let me see if I can have my properties panel up real quick. So this one is in flux. This one was Firefly 5. So again, make this image appear like it was captured during a winter storm. Leave the dog, lake, and mountains. Just add weather.
Disable the flux layer so we can see it. There we go.
Yeah. So look how different these are. This one is in ChatGPT. This one was Gemini 3.1. Oh my gosh, look at the Firefly one. What the holy heck? So the Firefly fill and expand literally didn't take the context into consideration at all. Isn't that interesting? And then the other thing I want to show you, let me go back to my little keynote here. Okay, this is a scene. I just want to show you that how different the scenes are. Again, you guys can have the deck if you want. By the way, in Photoshop, I want to be really clear. If the scene didn't fill out the river, I thought the river should go to the end. So in Photoshop, I just said sharpen and add detail into prairie grass, trees, mountain, and sky. And I added the lake out. Do you see how much sharper this is?
Mm-hmm.
That was done in Photoshop. Oops, excuse me. My keynote's mad at me. Nobody cares. All right. So this is going to be a slightly smaller screen because my keynote won't let me show you, but I just want to show you the prompt. Look how different the images are. And then what I would suggest you consider is merging. So see this image here? This is 2 or 3 of the dog images in AI, and I just masked them in Photoshop. So you're not stuck, right? If it's not a single prompt that works, merge it. And then the other thing I want to show you is, I'm so bummed this is not showing. Please do hold. I'm sure we're almost out of time here. The other thing I want to show you, and again, I'm apologizing.
2-minute warning.
2-minute warning, my God. Let me see if I can zoom in here. The demo gods. The exact same prompt, you guys. The exact same prompt on Firefly with Gemini 3.1. This one on the left is in Photoshop, in Firefly Web. This one next to it right here, this is in Photoshop. It's the same prompt, the same model. And look how different that result is. So do you remember at the beginning I said, look, they're all the same, but they're not the same? This is what I mean. So you want to pay really close attention to your prompting and where you are. So as a general rule for me, I experiment now, you guys. I try it in every place. I try it on the Firefly board. I try it in Firefly General, text to image prompt, and I try it inside Photoshop, and I try it on different stuff. I don't do it on a job when I'm under the gun and the job's due in 2 hours. No, 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 no. You do this on Sunday and you practice and you see what gets you better results for your languaging and your style. Because we're almost done, I just want to talk. Okay, we talked about this generation history you can see in Photoshop, which is great. There is Photoshop Agent Assist on the web, Photoshop web. And do I have 2 seconds to show that, or do you think we're out of time?
Technically, we're out, but go for like 10 seconds or 15.
10 seconds. Okay, so if you go to your web browser and you go to Photoshop, there is now AI Assist, so I can upload from my computer. I'm going to upload Pete. Come on, baby. Mama needs a new pair of shoes. And I can now, with AI Assist, I can say, hey, change background to Western scene, magic hour, sunset, mountain, river. Okay, I'm going to keep this vague. There's a markup button here. I can say, so I'm marking it up and saying, add rim light to camera right side. I'm sorry, I'm going over, guys. And then I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to say,
we gotta go, Lisa.
Cowboy. Oh my God.
There's another stream coming up after.
Okay, well, try it out. It's actually really cool. It's Photoshop Web. I love you guys. Email me, Lisa.
Everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Sorry
Bye.
for going over. Bye, you guys.